Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. We have a board meeting, and then following that will be a committee of the whole meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 13th, 2015. Looks like it's about 7:01, 7:02 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order, where our first order is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Sherby. Would you please call the roll for us?
Present.
Present.
Really?
Present.
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 Didn't notice it.
Present.
Present. We do have a quorum, and welcome everybody, and Happy New Year. I'm hoping your holidays were all what you wanted them to be, and that Santa was good to everybody. Before we get rolling tonight, just a couple things ahead of time. I wanted to thank Chief Carpino and his staff. Most of us know that we had two police officers that were able to go to New York City for the funeral of the first officer, Hispanic officer that was assassinated. And I wanted to thank John personally for getting that arranged, number one, and to Jerry and Christina for attending, and certainly sending back some of the photos that were, I won't say amazing, but the amount of support for the police officers and their families goes without saying. You could see that the police community is a strong community, and that we are not going to be intimidated by persons who think they're going to take advantage of us and even take our lives. Secondly, certainly our prayers go out, and we'll have a little moment of silence for all this, but certainly in France with the Charlie Hebdo, people that were killed in similar fashion by terrorists, Islamic, or whoever they are. That's not something that we should take lightly, and certainly we should be ever vigilant, not only in the village of Westchester, but certainly every place we are. And just watch. We're in kind of a crazy world right now. Additionally, there were 3 police officers that were killed in France in that same regard, a female police officer and 2 male police officers that were gunned down by these people, and certainly the people that were killed in the little deli, the Israeli people that were killed as well. So our hearts go out to them as a nation. As a small village of Westchester, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we certainly support all the efforts to combat this terror that unfortunately is upon us at this time. And hopefully there's an end in sight. I don't know if there is going to be one, but we only could hope and pray that there is. So if you guys don't mind, maybe a moment of silence for all the persons that were killed in this tragedy, many tragedies, and hope that it never happens again. Okay, any presentations this evening,
No.
Janet? Anything? Public comments and questions? If anyone would like to address the board, please step up to the mic, introduce yourself to our clerk, and we'll go from there.
My name is Megan Casey. I have lived in Westchester just over a year, and I think it's a great place to live. The neighbors are helpful, the streets and properties are kept up, and it is very quiet. One thing that needs reviewing is the amount of money some people are paying for water, specifically the homeowners living in 1- or 2-person households. In our town, every resident pays a minimum of 9,000 gallons per quarter. This is not fair and equitable for all residents. My usage is 5,000 gallons per quarter. Many residents leave during winter months and actually have their water turned off, yet they too must pay the minimum 9,000 gallons. ComEd and Nightgore bill their customers by usage, not some arbitrary process. I understand that other towns have a minimum usage fee, such as Broadview. However, Broadview charges a minimum usage of 4,800 gallons per quarter. I feel this is a far more reasonable standard. The Village of Westchester is essentially punishing homeowners by making them pay way beyond their actual usage. I urge you to reconsider the policy of minimum usage charge and charge your residents for only the water they actually use. I believe a village should do all they can to help their residents and not make a profit off of them. I respectfully request that this matter be reevaluated and discussed at the next village council meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think Broadview does it in cubic feet of water. You can do the conversion is whatever. The majority of the towns out there, and we do the studies all the time, have minimal usage in that. But as Janet will tell you, that this is a hot button issue for me as well. I only use 4,000 a quarter. When my father was dead for 2 years, he didn't use anything, and we paid the 9,000 and paid everything else. And I think this board knows that this is one of my hot buttons as far as being a little bit more equitable. Not that you don't want to help somebody, but guess what? The more you use, the more you have to pay, and maybe there's a different scale or something. I know we're going to be talking about this as we do our budgeting, because there is an impact on the water fund and a lot of our projects that we do, new piping, you know, it comes out of that water fund. It's not out of so-called general fund money, but when we replace water mains, and you know, depending on the size of the main, it could be several $1,000s a foot, depending on what you're doing and the length of it. The town is old. The water mains, for the most part, were put in back in the day. Our water agency, Broadview, Westchester, I mean, we're talking 1938 when stuff was put in. If you look at the fire hydrants out probably by your house, you'll see a date on there that 1927. That's how old that hydrant is. So there's a lot of infrastructure issues in that, and it comes out of all of that money. But I couldn't agree with you more on the equitableness of the water fund and how it's funded. And especially since our neighbor to the east, Ram, keeps throwing the 15% at us with no end in sight. However, I will report to you that, again, this year we have some state reps and state senators are going to sponsor another bill. It died last year in committee to try to put some regulatory authority statewide on what somebody could charge for water. Now, I don't know the whole schematic of that because it hasn't been vetted out, but there is a move afoot to try to put some regulation, kind of like Citizens Utility Board and the Commerce Commission, how they do electric rates and things like that. So there'll be a similarity to that. Don't know if it's going to fly, but I know it's on the horizon. And I was told that yesterday at a meeting I attended. So doesn't help you in the short term, but I want to bring you up and the board up to speed of what I know. So, anyone else? Nothing. Okay. And thank you. Consent agenda. We have A through H. Approval of record of bills 1/8/2015. Looks like $1,381,242.69. Approval of the minutes of December 16th of 14. Committee and board. Department reports. Ordinance amending section 18.58050 and section 18.58070 of the municipal code to permit off-site LED advertisement sign billboards. Ordinance approving an amendment to the site plan approved pursuant to the Village of Westchester Ordinance 13-2027 to allow construction of the LED sign at 701 to 825 Manheim Road, Village of Westchester. Ordinance amending section 8.12030 entitled Inspections, Chapter 8.12 entitled Food Service Sanitation Code, entitled Health Sanitation of the Westchester Municipal Code. Ordinance waiving the competitive bidding requirements and authorizing the execution of agreement between the Village of Westchester and LEHP Management. And ordinance waiving the requirements of village of purchasing policies and procedure manual and ratifying the execution of professional service agreement with the Village of Westchester Stanley Consultants. I know Robert brought that up at the last meeting. Those are the A through H's. Does anybody need anything pulled? Mike, do we need any more definition on anything?
I would only say that item G, the LEHP Management, Inc., that is the entity that's going to perform the food service
Inspections.
sanitation inspections.
Okay. Anything needs to be pulled, gentlemen and ladies? No. Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion and a second for approving the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Tommy, who was the second? I'm sorry.
I'll take
Frank.
it.
Frank. Okay, Tom and Frank. Any questions? If not, Sherby, please call the roll.
Trustee Calhoun.
Aye.
Trustee Gattuso.
Aye.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yorkowicz.
Aye.
President Bowie.
Aye, motion carries. Janet, anything on our active agenda?
Nothing this
Nothing.
evening.
Your reports.
Okay, well, again, I would just like to wish everyone a happy, healthy new year, and remind everybody that Village Hall administrative offices will be closed on Monday in observance of Martin Luther King Day. As always, the police and fire will be working 24/7 to protect our residents. Public Works will also be off that day, so if you have any emergencies, please call the police non-emergency number. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Michael.
I do have a report, but I believe it's going to be more appropriate to reserve it until the Committee of the Whole, item 4D. It's an opinion that I have regarding a question concerning the newsletter and the policies concerning the content of that, so I'll reserve it till then. Thank you.
Board members, Frankie,
I have nothing new to report on EDC.
Nikki.
No, nothing this evening. The only request I was going to make is for John and Jimmy is looking at the reports that maybe for the newsletter for next month, they could highlight some of the, I know Jimmy, some of your guys have had get recognized for over at Loyola for some of the calls and that they've had throughout the year. Maybe you could highlight some of those things. And John, I'm staring at these numbers and that ESPO has here, and crime dramatically dropped and our arrests are through the roof. So, and I know you guys had some high profile ones as well, and maybe it'd be really nice to highlight the police and fire department in next month's issue.
The most recent issue we have with officers' photos and they received awards.
Yeah.
For the rest of the year.
Yeah.
They're currently working on the year-end report, but they have it at the next board meeting. We did a comparison of last year, several pages of all the training and arrests, crimes, and we're looking at the report right now.
I just think it'd be kind of nice for the residents to know that, and see those numbers, and then same with your guys. So, that's all.
Great, thank you. Celestine, anything?
Nothing this evening.
Tomas?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Polly?
Nothing yet. We got things going, but we'll see what happens maybe next month.
Great, thank you. John, Chief.
As the village president mentioned, two of our officers, Officer Jerry Dildine and Officer Christina Tontis, were able to attend the funeral of one of the two officers that was assassinated in New York, and primarily it was courtesy of JetBlue Airlines. They flew any police officers. They flew any police officers from any police department within the United States round trip for free. Each agency was able to have two officers fly for free.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Just talk about
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Hotel lodging was picked up by the Fraternal Order of Police. I gave them some money personally for them to have some walking around money for lunch or whatever. They brought me back a cigar, so that was okay. I did check with the village manager. She agreed we could reimburse some of their taxi fees for the rides they took from the airport to the funeral to wherever. So we'll get that reimbursed to them. But all in all, they were there with their dress uniforms on, and they proudly represented our police department. Of course, most people thought they were from Chicago because they had the checkerboard headbands on their hats, or they thought they're from Westchester County because they saw Westchester, but they definitely knew they were from Westchester, Illinois at the end of the day. So it was good that they had their presence there. And officers were able to work, switch shifts. It didn't cost us any overtime for them to attend the event. They gave up some time due that they had or whatever, board time, and other officers pitched in and worked for them, so it did not impact the village at all for any overtime cost. So that was truly volunteerism at its best. Right now, I'm currently working on the budget. Budget numbers are due in tomorrow. We'll have them available by the end of the day. And as I said already, we're working on that year-end report. As a result of the most recent snowfall last week, I asked one of the sergeants to go see Robert. We talked about the 2-inch snowfall. We enacted the snow ban. We issued some coupons, got people used to the fact that it was time to remove the cars from the street. We've identified, as of today, 32 cars within the village that we believe are abandoned because they haven't been moved since the snowfall, and they're still kind of snowed in. So I've got a list. Sarah's going to go out tomorrow because our ordinance calls for a 7-day waiting period. So we're going to start tagging these 32 cars. I'm sure a majority of them will be moved within a few days. But just so you know, if you see any cars that look like, you know, every zone car checked today, and we identified 32 cars. So we're working on that. I remember last year when we had the excessive snow, I checked with all the elected officials to see if they knew of any problem cars that were in their neighborhoods, but this was easy enough to identify. I also reported today there's some areas that need attention where there's couches and sofas or whatever. On parkways, I found 2 today. The service officer tonight's going to identify the rest of them, notify the people, because it's an issue. We currently don't have a full-time ordinance officer working, so we're trying to pick up the slack. So we're trying to get all these areas identified throughout the village to keep it nice. Like she said, we do our best. So we are trying to identify some areas that need to be, people need to take care of business and move whatever garbage they threw out there that's not getting picked up by our waste haulers. So we're on that as well. And other than that, the next agenda, I have something to discuss about an issue on Fleet Street that will be on the next agenda item at the next meeting. So I have nothing else. The police commission just came up with the final police list in the last hour. I believe there's you got it narrowed down from the 90-some candidates to a workable number. I believe it's around 14 or 15. That's the final list with the preference points added for military. They handed me the top 3 so we could start the backgrounds. And as we discussed a few meetings ago about getting permission to hire somebody to fill the vacancy from the retired officer Rollins, we'd like to move forward. The next academy is in May, and the pre-tests are in April, so we need to get background, polygraph, psychological, conditional offer employment, medical, and whatever in the next couple of months. So we're moving forward after we just got notice within the last hour. That's it.
Jimmy?
Actually, 2014, we ended it as our busiest year ever. 124 calls, more than any other year. The last largest year was actually in 2008. And for the first time, we broke 1,000 fire calls response within a year. So we kind of had a busy year. We ended it on a busy note. December 26th, a chimney fire over on Waterford. Everybody got out safely from the home. Minor damage to the inside of the home. The outside of the home, unfortunately, we had to actually break through the brick to actually access the fire to properly extinguish it. January 1st, unfortunately, we had a bedroom fire over on Manchester for a bedroom fire. Again, the home was safely evacuated, and there was moderate damage to the home. Unfortunately, those residents will be displaced for some time. And then on January 7th, Norwood Park had a 2-alarm with an EMS box where 8 people were evacuated from that building safely. Miraculously, actually, after you've seen the building, if you guys saw it on the news at all. Myself and our ambulance were called to the scene. We're there for about half the night. And then shortly after returning that morning, again, our engine 26 and myself ended up in Oakbrook on a house fire over in Yorkshire Woods, which the chief of Oakbrook sent a nice thank you letter on behalf of his department for our work and working with him. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Jimmy looked great with a frozen mustache. He looked great with a frozen mustache. Yeah.
Maureen?
In the finance department for the new year, that meant new business licenses, liquor and gaming for all the businesses in town. For business licenses, we sent out approximately 280 renewals. We have a small amount remaining of businesses that still need to get their renewals in. They're due on the 15th. I have Melissa making calls to those businesses as friendly reminders that these need to get in. I recently met with the staff in regards to the vehicle sticker program. We're just kind of brainstorming some ways to improve the process for the residents to make it easier for the foot traffic and keep the lines down. And as John had mentioned earlier, department budgets are due to me tomorrow, so that's season's kicking off. That's all I have.
Have you scheduled them for different times?
Not yet.
Okay. Gregory?
Yes, as she mentioned, the budget season's here. The ETSB budget is in draft form currently after some discussions with Janet and Maureen. I'm looking to reach out to Nick and the other members of the ETSB committee to determine a date where we could sit down and determine some of the auxiliary expenditures beyond the basic necessities such as phone lines and things like that, see what monies will be available, if any. But we're looking probably, as long as everybody is in agreement, the second week of February at some point, but I'll reach out to them on that. On another note, Officer Verber, our school resource officer, was selected to be a part of a committee, a strategic planning committee, and the reason I'm bringing it up, in discussions he came to me stating that the superintendent, Mike Jallo, was interested in doing a lot of technology upgrades to their buildings that similarly were talked about several years ago, such as cameras, access equipment. They're looking to see what funding they have available to them, as well as some grant information. I've been working with Officer Verber, giving him all the paperwork on the discussions we had a few years back, trying to make sure that anything they purchase will work well with the police department and allow us the same access to those resources, whether it be video resources, audio resources, or access to the building that we discussed a few years back. So Rob has all that information, and he'll be speaking with them. In fact, he's there tonight talking to them about those types of things. So hopefully he's going to come back with some good news. That's all.
Greg, in that regards, I remember the discussions a couple of years ago that it was more than just the camera operation.
Correct.
It was potentially Westchester, the village, being the hub for the broadband and get the broadband spectrum that was 2 or 3 times what we're getting and they're getting combined. And I know the Park District had some interest in this as well. I know St. Joseph's High School had some interest
Yes.
in doing this to
He's
try
brought
to
that back
have
to the table.
us have the broadband capabilities, almost running our own, I'll say Comcast operation out of here, and then farming it out to the library, to the park, and all these things, so they could have 3 or 4 times the bandwidth than they presently have. So they could do many more things than they currently can do with the bandwidth that they have. So is that what we're talking
Bringing
about
that
again?
back as well, yes.
Okay,
He's
because I know
bringing that-
you were
Correct.
up to your eyeballs in that back in the day, so.
And yes, he's bringing that back up to them as well, trying to explain. He says that when he's going to get tongue-tied, he'll call me up, but he is bringing that back to the table as they sit, and then if necessary, I'll assist him with explaining it a little bit more in depth. He expects Mike Giallo to have some more questions. So as soon as they break the ice with it, which was tonight apparently, we or myself from the village will be speaking with them directly on those issues.
I don't want to be premature, but is there any thought of, I'm trying to remember if we were looking into this back then as well, something up at the towers, I do remember. Were we looking to, now that you have Follets in there occupying pretty much a tower in themselves, is that another phase
That would be
you're going to look
if-
at? Because I think we were talking about involving some of the private entities as well in some of that bandwidth.
Correct. The school was, well, with the bandwidth wouldn't affect the towers. The cameras were going to affect the towers. The ability to view and monitor and get in if there were an event that required us to do so. The schools were the next level, or I should say the first level. If the 3 schools were involved in this bandwidth sharing necessity, in the need to share bandwidth, that they would be the start of this. St. Joe's couldn't do it alone, and the library couldn't do it alone, and the parks couldn't do it alone. But the schools, having 3 buildings, were the start of this. Like I said, I don't know where they're at today. Officer Berber took the information that I had from the previous discussions with Dr. Sophie to sit with Dr. Jallo, or forgive me, Mike Jallo, with regards to that possibility. So hopefully,
it may be time that, yourself having a knowledge base that far exceeds any of ours regarding the issue to approach the school board and
absolutely.
have a discussion, after this first contact is done, and to see how this is a win-win for everybody.
That would, yeah. I offered myself to any meetings or any discussions further on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Greg, real quick, just in anticipation of the ETSB meeting, are you familiar with any of the legislation is there anything that sunsets this year? Because I know there was previous things that had sunset tied in with them for our funding.
I don't believe it was this year. I believe there was a 2-year extension put
Okay.
on last year. I'll double check with
Okay.
Mike Tillman, who would have probably the latest legislation
Okay.
as it was, but there was an extension for multi-year extension put
Okay.
on.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was one or.
And that was meant for the wireless
Okay.
callers.
Okay.
Wireless funding.
Okay, thanks.
I'll double check. And
Yeah,
get
just
back
for
to you.
planning for the budget.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Is that it, Craig? Yes. That's it? Robert, your turn.
We've installed our pre-wet station that we asked for 3-4 months ago. That's in service and working very well. This pre-wet station, we spray calcium chloride on top of the rock salt that we put down on the street. It prevents clumping, and it allows us to have more efficient spread on the salt. It doesn't clump up into big chunks. One of the reasons we wanted to get this is that our existing pre-wet station would soak the staff as they were using it. Felt that was unsafe. So we put that in. It's working quite well.
I have to say that, not to interrupt you, but the streets after the couple of snowfalls that we had were outstanding. I went to a meeting last Thursday from Westchester to Melrose Park and drove through a neighboring community, and you had to stop 5 car lengths back just to make sure you didn't slide through the stop sign, and our streets were wet. I mean, it was, pavement and wet. So that calcium chloride, and the guys are really kicking it, and they've done an awesome job. And I know I've passed that on to them when I see them in the morning and that, but certainly, from you as well. So, thank you.
Yeah. They take pride in that. Just for your information, we put down a little over 500 tons. Last year, this time, we were close to 1,200 tons of salt, so we're 600 tons less, which is a good thing according to the budget. But we're probably going to apply more salt than we did in 2012 and 2013. So it's been moderate so far. Also, we sold our Vector truck, the old one. The Village of Hillside made us an offer that was higher than the trade-in value that was offered by Standard Equipment. So we were able to conclude that and do a title exchange for a check. So, and our new Vector is in, if anybody wants to come take a look at it. I know several trustees have already done that. It's a nice machine and it'll really help us keep ahead of some of the stormwater issues by keeping the sewers clean. Just to bring everybody up to speed in regards to streetlights. It's a continuing issue. We're still having some outages, not nearly as many as we had before. We have installed surge suppressors in all 21 of the circuits. So as a preventive measure to prevent any lightning strikes or power surges going through and knocking out our system, all 21 have been installed, so we have some surge suppression devices. We've inspected 150 poles, and in those poles we found that 51 of the fuse kits were inoperable or not in existence or didn't have grounds connected. So we have repaired those. We still have a number of lights out there that we haven't checked. So one of the things I'm doing is preparing a budget in the capital program to go out and check on a more frequent basis, to even consider bidding out some work to get the poles checked and up to standards. So we know the grounding and the fuse kits and surge suppressors can be put in all the poles. This would allow our system to be more resilient, but we are still chasing after GNP to come back and fix those lights that go out. And we still feel that this is covered by their warranty, and we shouldn't have light circuits going out again and again and again. To further investigate, I've been in contact with some companies and will entertain proposals. I hope we can get them out by the end of this month to bench test all the parts that we received that have been swapped out. We retained about 50% of the lights, and the electrical engineers that I've had in-house to look at these components tell me they only need 10 or 15 of these. And what we're going to do is we'll have a company test each of the components to either rule in or rule out bad manufacturing practice. So we'll have the drivers tested and the LED panels tested. It's a whole nother issue if there's bad panels and GNP was installing something. They can go back to the manufacturer. It'll also tell us if those are all good, then it's another issue. So we're going to continue to track down why this is occurring. We still don't have a smoking gun here, but we are repairing our system, bringing it up to standard, and we'll continue investigating what's wrong with these LED panels.
Robert, you said we still have a number of issues with lights going out. Are these lights that were
That's what I was going to say.
recently repaired, that group of lights that we had?
Any repeats?
Yes.
So there are repeats on the ones, and those were all supposed to have been taken care of and upgraded and
They were.
protected and still haven't, okay.
I've gone out and checked several of those that they went back on, and they continue to go out. In a couple places, we found that the insulation on the wires that are buried between the lights have been hit or frayed or broken and full of water. With that, we have Pinner come out and replace that line, but that's a very small percentage. We're still looking for why these are going out.
So what is GMP telling us?
They're going to send a guy out, and they check them out, and what we're asking them to do is replace them.
Are they replacing
Just all I
them
could do is put a new one in. I said, we'll put a new one in.
at their cost or our cost?
Their cost. We already paid them to go
Right.
in and do installs. And when those go out, I want them to go back in. One of the other things we need, one of the electrical engineers told me is you need to double check some of these circuits, because if you have repeated replacements, then there's something else going on. And it might be, bad transformer, Commonwealth Edison is blowing everything out. But we've got to find out what's going on. And we'll get an engineer on board, an electrical engineer, to help us track that down. Still looking. I just wanted everyone to be aware that it continues to be an issue. We get calls at least once a week with lights out and people complaining, how long does it take to fix this? If I knew what was wrong, I would have fixed it 3 months ago.
So Robert, at this point, there's no determination whether or not it's GMP, the equipment they're using, or if it's still infrastructure or something going on from ComEd's side, that's still to be determined?
Yes.
I drove the east side about a week ago. There were, I think I reported 4 or 5 that were out, 3 of which for sure have been out since November, and never came back on.
There's 2 on the boulevard out.
Well, the one on the boulevard,
There's one on Dickens and right here at the corner.
yeah,
right?
that's the one, this one here,
Mhm.
and then there's 2 on Dover that are out. I found a new one on Manchester by the Eisenhower. But anyway, those ones have been out for quite some time, and I know you're working on them, but we need to get those lights up and running. And then guess what? They're working today, and then next week, if they blow, they're out. But they've been out consistently for a couple of months, and we need to get that taken care of. Secondly, the parts that we have, is there a time frame where someone's going to take a look at them and give us that determination? Are they going out today, tomorrow, next week, or who's getting them? And because we talked about it in the summer, late summer, about having UL take a look at them, or give us, again, is it something wrong with the product? Because there are lights out there that are working now that don't have the fuse kits in the lights, and that's what you're working on to systematically take care of that. But they have 2 lights out on the same street. There's actually Manchester and the Service Drive was the other one. That one, the 2 on Dover, and the one on the Boulevard. I didn't know about the Dickens one, Tommy, but I know those 4 have been out that I reported back in November. So, and we need to get them up, and I want to see them up, and then if they go out again, then I know, hey, now there's something else in the mix. I'm not quite sure that that's the case right yet, since I've never seen them on. But anyway, again, my other question, are these going out tomorrow, next week? Who's looking at them, and when?
I brought in an electrical engineer that I know and have worked on streetlight systems in the past. He's the chief electrical design engineer for Mead Electrics, and he's developing a scope that I can send out. Our procurement requires me to get 3 bids, so that's the route I was taking. When I get the scope of work, then I will put it out there as an RFP, select companies that I know do this type of work. But we need someone that does bench testing of these micro circuits, and this is way out of my educational background. I don't know how to do that, so I need to bring in an electrical engineer. He is developing the scope gratis, and with the caveat that he would like to put a proposal in as well. And I said, of course, but we're probably considering low bids unless your expertise overwhelms everyone else's proposal. So he told me that he thought he could develop that scope of work toward the end of this month, and then depending on what he thinks the estimates for this work would cost, I may need to come to the board to get permission to spend that kind of money. It's unbudgeted.
And I know that's for the testing. Say the negative piece of all of this, that it's quite possible that the 4 lights that I'm talking about, and Tommy has a 5th one in the game, may have been out since June. And that's not acceptable. I mean, at the end of the day, if in fact that is the fact, I know they've been out since November, those 4. The Manchester one is a new one, but that was out in December when I reported that one, because I didn't drive the north side, because our problems were on the south side. That's where the emails have been coming from. So they need to get up and running, or somebody needs to tell us, hey, Sam, there's a broken wire. We got to dig up that front yard, or that light ain't going to work. I mean, we'd like to know that. But they need to get up. If they've been out since June
Has-
14th, I
is-
got a problem.
Has everything on that list been accounted for? I mean, other than those?
Yeah, I mean, everything else is working.
Everything else?
Everything else
we
is
have an
working.
answer.
I mean, I missed that one on Dickens that Tommy's talking about.
And
It's,
where are we at
it's,
with
it's
the-
on the boulevard, it's just at the corner there. That's it.
Where are we at with the clock running as far as the warranty goes? I mean, was it just like 1 year for certain things? I mean, where are we at with the, I mean, the meter's got to be going. I'm just wondering.
Weren't we looking to make an insurance claim on that?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we need the testing results first. Mhm.
Yeah. I just realized it's going to take a while, but I just don't want us to all of a sudden March.
I don't want to be behind the
April.
8 ball, right?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, by the time we finally get a definitive answer,
When did we do this, like in June or July?
that's why I can't remember.
June went out, and then they were supposed to be fixed by October 1st. That was one of their September, then it went to October.
Yeah.
No, but the
Installation.
original install,
Yeah.
when was that? Was that
Oh.
in July or something?
It was in the summer. That's why I'm not sure. That's why I was just kind of, I'm just kind of
We'll
concerned
have to
that.
verify.
The date of the install is to start that warranty.
Well, yeah.
Not when we make a claim.
Hey, Robert,
I don't know.
has the poles that have been out been tested to see if it's our problem before we even go into another light?
I'm sorry.
Wait, the ones that are out right now
Pin-
are ones that have been replaced for the second time.
Okay.
Pinner is contracted when the lights go out and it's not the LED head. And Pinner investigates the outage.
So then we know our pole is fine once they go out and
Our
look at it.
service
Once
to the
Pinner
poles,
has
the poles
reviewed.
that are out right now, our service is fine. We know it's something in the pole. We don't know what caused it to go out, but we have power to the pole, I guess.
Well,
is what
for
everybody's
example,
asking.
the two on the boulevard, there's 2 lights on those poles. 1 light on each of those poles at the corner of, by Pelham and on Dickens is working. So
No,
it's
that's
not the
good.
power to the pole on those lights, for sure. I'll tell
Well-
you that
At
much.
least they have some light.
It could be the power running up the pole.
Yeah, it could be.
The line running up the pole, right. That's what I'm saying. So we don't know if that is the case yet, or
In the 151 polls that have been the subject of GMP coming back and honoring their warranty, we've put in fuse kits, checked grounding, put in surge suppressors and all those. So,
But that's not to say we couldn't have a new wiring issue running up the pole.
could be.
But I mean, the odds of 5 of them since the time that
Power
they
to the
fixed them.
base, we know is
Yeah.
good from the base going up. Don't know.
Well, Pinner's got to give us a report on the 5 or 6 that have been enumerated here. And
Yeah,
See what the heck's
Is
wrong
it the
with 'em.
wiring? Are we good up,
Yeah.
up until the head? It's the bad, it's a bad head.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly can call them out. Probably should have a discussion about when we call Pinner in. I'm trying to hold GMP's feet to the fire here and honor their commitment to replace defective equipment that doesn't work. We bring someone else to replace it, then they're off the hook.
Well,
Who
I don't
did
think
they
we're
have?
asking Pinner to replace it. We're
They
just
had
asking-
Mead come out, correct? Didn't they have Mead last time? Who did GMP
That's
had
who
come out to
GMP
do the work?
used.
It was Mead.
They had their own people
I thought they contracted
do
with
the
me.
install.
I thought it was with Mead.
Some
They
of
had
the
their
work
own-
is
Oh,
Azure.
the second time, because that was one of the questions that I raised, because they had said that they liked using Mead because Mead they were a little more expensive, but they were safe, and, they always had 2 guys, but then he said that he could do it cheaper by using his own guy, and he was just like, it was like a guy, and it was like, well, wait a minute, you told us before that you wanted to use Mead because of the way they operated, but you could do it cheaper.
At this point, I don't care who climbs the pole. All I want to know is what's wrong with the
Yeah.
5.
Okay, let me ask a question then. Obviously, you've called them, you've had some contact with GMP, and we're just getting a very slow response.
Yes.
Do we have any legal recourse right now to say, hey, you got to get out here and take care of this? Enough time has lapsed that, this issue is ongoing. I mean, where do we stand there? I mean, we paid for something.
Got a
we paid
warranty,
for a
you gotta
product.
make a claim to them that they need to honor their warranty. And
Right, but I'm saying if you call them, when were they notified?
We notify them on a weekly basis.
Okay. That's what I'm saying, so they've been notified numerous times and they're not getting a response.
Yeah, that's the very conversation I had with my staff on Monday, was what's the purpose of notifying them? I said, it's a legal trail. We want to make sure we've done our due diligence on telling them what they need to do, and that the clock is running, and we want their response immediately. So whatever they tell us,
Is it
whatever
time for a
reason
letter
they're
from
not
the
coming
attorney,
out,
or, you know?
we're at least documenting that we
Yeah.
continually ask them, and I think if we have a claim within the warranty period and they're non-responsive, that doesn't let them off the hook. We've notified them.
Yeah.
That's a legal term, I really don't know.
When's the last time they've come out?
It's when they worked on the 150 we had, that we paid for the install, the
That's it?
$45,000 we paid to have
That was
it
a couple
come
months
out.
ago
That
then.
was
Yeah, it's
October,
November.
September and October.
I mean, do we have like electronic documentation that they've been contacted? I know you said you've called them.
No, it's email, yeah.
It's emails and
always
stuff,
follow
so,
up.
and they're non-responsive, so at this point,
The next
is
step
there,
would be to send a
what's the
letter
next,
again.
what's the next plan of, you know, attack? What's our next?
Are they giving
I-
you excuses? Like
No, I
it's
was
too
not aware that they
cold,
had
or
not
what?
been on site since they repaired the 151. I will make a call tomorrow and let him know that we expect performance under the warranty, or we will pursue legal action.
Yeah, because he seems to respond to your calls when you do calls, so.
Right, I was not aware that they had not been in town.
Don't get me started, so let's just move on. Anything else there, Robert?
No.
You know me going on the lights. How are we with the reservoir? I know it's been cold and it was gooky and now it's frozen. I know. Are we in a standstill waiting for some thaw or something? What are we doing? What's
Yeah,
left?
the contractor has removed about 2/3 of the excavated material. He indicated to me that Wednesday, Thursday this week was his planned startup date, weather depending. I asked him how many days to completion. He said he needed another 8 working days.
Okay,
I
that's
find
not
that
bad.
I saw him out there
But that's-
early this week or late last week, moving the equipment around.
Yeah, he's got to prep the site. He's got some other things to do.
Yeah.
But he told me he needs another 8 working days. And good weather, he felt that he could finish.
It's supposed to be 40 degrees this weekend, so.
So we can do 8 days in one day, is that it? Get
We'll
back
see.
on track?
We'll see.
Great.
We're after him always to coordinate with Chicago Highlands. That's probably been the biggest problem we've had, is that he'll tell me, but he won't tell them, and then he's trying to dump and there's nobody there. So I told him, this is part of your obligation. You need to let everybody know what your plan is,
Great.
so everybody's ready. So
Yeah, I've seen
he
trucks
understands
locked
what
out,
those obligations are.
Good deal.
waiting on 31st to get in.
I'm sorry, hey?
I've seen trucks waiting to
get
get in
in?
there because the gates were down, they couldn't get into the
Mhm.
highway.
Yeah.
Backed up.
Okay, good. Thank you, Robert. Melissa?
Good evening. Just wanted to let everybody know that staff from my department, the fire department, and BNF met today to finalize the revisions for, hopefully the building code update should be on the first cow in February. Wanted to let you all know that the zoning code, for the update of the zoning code, the steering committee is gonna have their first project kickoff meeting on January 22nd. And IDOT approved our first 4 for the wayfinding signs, so those are gonna be fabricated. Takes about 3 weeks for the signs to be fabricated, and they should be installed soon after that, weather permitting. In December, 3 businesses opened. We issued 87 permits, completed 175 inspections, and it amounted to about $1 million in construction value. That's all that I have.
Great. Thank you. Okay, me. Let's see. Got a letter from Representative Durkin, House Republican leader, 82nd District. Thanks on behalf of my family for the police escort and the kind words from you and the village staff. My father loved Westchester and did everything possible to make it a great village to raise a family. We miss our parents greatly, but take comfort in knowing they are at peace and in heaven. From Jim Durkin. Nice card. Also, I want to thank Storino, Romello, and Durkin. They donated $250 to Pillars. It's a charity that I thought could use the money. They help families. They're located in LaGrange Park. They have an office in the plaza down by Blockbuster, and they help families in Westchester. And we're looking for locations for the donations. We've done the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and other scouting, the library, the pantry, and I thought that this was a good charity to donate. They do things in Westchester, so I want to thank you, Michael, and Don for thinking of us. Also, just information, 2015 Winter Resource Fair hosted by Congressman Danny Davis. This will be this Saturday, the 17th, 10 a.m. to 1. It is at the Proviso Math and Science Academy, 8601 Roosevelt in Forest Park. You're all invited. However, what they're looking for is people that need help in paying their bills. There's the CETA group there, ComEd, natural gas people are theirs. Some of the documents that are needed to apply for some of the help: proof of gross income from all household members for the 30-day period prior to the application date, copy of most recent heat and electric bills. If you pay for your home energy directly, you must provide the entire bill, proof of Social Security numbers of all household members. If a member of your household receives TANF, you must bring the Medicare card. And applicants that have utilities included in the rent must bring a copy of the rental agreement which states the amount of the rent, the utilities are included, and the landlord contact information. Rent costs must be greater than 30% of household gross income for 30 days prior to the application. So I was contacted by Congressman Davis's office, myself and the mayors of the surrounding areas, Cook County Recorder of Deeds, and our commissioners are sponsoring this, and it's for the residents of Westchester and the area of our 7th district here, that if they need some assistance with paying their bills and that, and they have some qualifying documentation, that they can get some help. Also, veterans and disabled are encouraged to attend as well. And I know I'm going to give this to Sherby as she handles all that military stuff, and you have your contacts. So if there's anyone that needs some assistance, please make sure that they get it. Also, one of the things that's out there, Janet and I went to the Forest Preserve District with Robert regarding our sanitary sewer relocation about a week or so ago. Our Public Works Department was out today marking the sanitary line, and this is a joint effort. We have our sanitary goes into LaGrange Park, which you know, also in the Forest Preserve property, and we are going to be relocating that. We got a low-interest IEPA loan to do that as well. But the county, you have to dot your I's and cross the T's, and we're out there marking the line in our 20-foot easement, 10 feet on each side of the manhole. And what we're looking for are trees, like oak trees and big trees, that if in fact we were to have to go in there and knock a 20-foot swath through the Forest Preserve District, that these trees would be imperiled. So what we're trying to do is we're going to put together a presentation. We're actually going to videotape this as well. They were marking today, and we're going to go this and that and identify this tree would have to go, and this one's in the 10 or 20-foot realm, 10 foot on either side of the sanitary. So we're going to make a production out of it and offer that as additional necessity on why the relocation has to take place. Janet and I met with, and Robert met, and our engineer, Mark Zesch, met with the county officials at their office in River Forest the other day, and this was the course of action. Mike Murnane, the number 2 man in the Forest Preserve, obviously knows the urgency of this situation, as this is a sanitary line that could be leaching into the Forest Preserve at this minute. And getting it relocated out on the sunny side or in the parkway or however we're going to do it, and get it down the bike path with the minimal intrusion, and impact to the Forest Preserve District and the people that use that Edgewood Street, which is a LaGrange Park street, into the Forest Preserve District and across the the bridge over there underground certainly, to Garfield and Brainerd, which will certainly impact the LaGrange Park, and we're trying to do that as minimally as possible. But we're putting the best package together. We know what we have to do, and it's going on, and the PWD guys are already started on that. We'll finish it up hopefully next week. So that's another thing that we've been doing in meeting with certain people to get that going. Other than that, nothing? Executive session? No? Is there a motion a second to adjourn tonight?
So moved.
No exec?
No exec.
Okay. Saw it on the agenda.
So move.
Angelo,
Second.
Pauly, all in favor of adjourning and going into our committee of the whole, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, say no. Our board meetings stand adjourned.